In the dead of night, at precisely 3 a.m., the rural silence was shattered by the sharp snip of garden shears slicing through a thick water pipe. Karen Voss, clad in zebra-striped pajamas and mud-caked boots, stood triumphant under her flashlight's beam, chest heaving as she tossed the shears aside. "That'll show him," she hissed, a smirk curling her lips as water gushed briefly before trickling to a stop. She thought she'd struck a blow against her neighbor's defiance. What she didn't know was that she'd just severed the water supply for her entire HOA block, her own pristine lawn, her prized tulip garden, and her fancy espresso machine included. By sunrise, the last drop would dribble from her faucet, leaving her toothbrush dry and her confidence shattered. The day before had been unremarkable. I was tinkering in my workshop, replacing a pressure sensor on the private pump system I'd maintained for over a decade. This wasn't just any system, it drew water from an old reservoir, feeding buried lines that served not only my land but a handful of homes now under the HOA's iron grip. Back in the 90s, before cookie-cutter houses sprouted like weeds in Willow Creek, the county struck a deal with landowners to supply water this way. It was legal, documented, and ran smoother than any city pipe dream. That is, until Karen stormed into the neighborhood. Karen, the self-appointed HOA president, arrived with a gleaming SUV, a clipboard, and an endless stack of violation notices. She was new, barely unpacked, yet wielded her title like a scepter. Her favorite phrases, per HOA guidelines and in violation of Section 4C, echoed through the block, though they meant nothing on my property, which sat just outside her domain. To her, boundaries were mere suggestions, and her rules were gospel. Trouble brewed 2 weeks earlier when she zip-tied a neon yellow notice to my gate, claiming my water pipe, stuck 20 feet from the road and half hidden by sunflowers, ruined the neighborhood's aesthetic. I tossed it in the trash. The next day, another appeared with a handwritten scrawl, "Final warning." I knew then she was itching for a fight. Neighbors whispered about her reign of terror. Jim from down the road got a fine for painting his shed an unapproved shade of green. Ellen was ordered to rip out her wildflower garden for looking too untamed. I figured she'd burn out eventually, but that was before the shears. At midnight, my security camera pinged. I thought it was a raccoon, but there was Karen, creeping along my side yard, flashlight darting, clutching something metallic. My jaw hit the floor as she knelt by the main valve box, glanced around, and started cutting. She sliced through the pipe like a spy defusing a bomb, then fist-pumped the air. I saved the footage, leaned back, and waited for the chaos to unfold. By dawn, the block was a circus. My phone buzzed with frantic texts. "You got water?" I said nothing, brewed coffee, and turned on my sprinklers for the irony. The HOA group chat exploded. Karen spun a tale of a natural disruption and claimed she'd called the authorities. She hadn't. She was floundering. Soon, I heard shouting across the street. Karen stood in her driveway, arguing with a county utility worker in overalls. I strolled over, mug in hand, and introduced myself. I handed him the 1993 deed and service contract, explaining how my system supplied the block. His slow nod turned Karen's face from crimson to ash. "You mean we depend on his pipe?" she stammered. "His reservoir, his pump, his maintenance," the worker confirmed. "This ain't city water, and you admitted to cutting it." Her mouth flapped like a stranded fish. "You realize," I said, cool as ice, "that pipe didn't just serve me. It fed your house and 23 others." "I didn't know," she muttered. "You should have labeled it." "It's underground," I shot back, smiling. "Unless it's signed by my carrots." Her bravado cracked, but she clung to it. "I'll file an HOA complaint, and you'll fix this now." "I'll fix it," I said. But the valves locked until further notice. Gotta watch for vandals. By noon, neighbors lined up with jugs and buckets, begging for water. I set up a refill station with a donation bucket. Most tossed in cash, cookies, even a 6-pack. It felt like a block party until Karen marched up, waving an empty dog bowl like a VIP pass. I aimed the hose at her feet, just enough to make her yelp and hop into a puddle. The crowd roared. She stormed off, screeching about lawyers. The next morning, her perfect lawn was a mess of empty cans and wilted tulips while my sprinklers danced. Petty? Sure. Satisfying? Absolutely. I was welding a lockbox onto the repaired pipe when Jim wandered over, sweating, with a 5-gallon jug. She really did it, he chuckled. I waved him through, no charge for friends, though cookies were welcome. Word spread, and soon neighbors arrived with bottles, baskets, even laundry bins. Ellen brought brownies and whispered about a vote to oust Karen. I grinned and said I'd back it. Then a gleaming water truck rolled in, rented the night before as a precaution. I slapped a sign on it, emergency refill, $10 for 20 gallons. Some paid extra, fueled by spite. Kids played tag, someone blasted country tunes. It was a fair, not a crisis. Then Karen appeared, visor on, clipboard in hand, heels wobbling on gravel. "This is illegal," she snapped, waving at the truck. "Unlicensed water distribution violates health codes." I sipped lemonade. "It's private land, donation-based, with a certified pump." "You never asked." Her eyes flicked to my barn camera. "You're filming us after your midnight visit?" "Seems smart," I said. She turned scarlet as neighbors filmed her meltdown. Ellen shouted, "You cut your own water, Karen." Another chimed, "We'd be at the gas station without him." For a second, fear flashed in her eyes, fear of losing her throne. "This isn't over," she hissed, storming off, splashing through another puddle. She posted online, calling me a backyard water bandit and claiming I poisoned the supply. The post drowned in laughing emojis and sarcasm. A neighbor shared a clip of her fleeing the hose, captioned, "Water's fine, Karen." That night, Jim brought bourbon. We toasted under the stars, knowing she'd swing again. "She hasn't hit bottom," I said. "When she does, she'll dig deeper." I wasn't wrong. Days later, my sensors caught movement near an old maintenance hatch. Fresh tire marks and disturbed soil led to a new pipe spliced into my line, snaking into HOA land. Karen had hired a crew to steal water. I saved the footage, clear shots of 2 men, one in her landscaper's logoed shirt, installed a remote shut-off valve, and waited. Her chance came at a garden party where she played queen, showing off fountains and tulips to HOA loyalists. As the sun peaked, I tapped my phone, closing the valve. Her fountain sputtered, hoses went dry, and guests murmured in confusion. Karen's smile froze. She called someone, then texted me from an unknown number about a mainline issue. I ignored it. Minutes later, she stormed my driveway, heels clicking. "What did you do?" she demanded. "Must be too many illegal taps," I said, handing her photos of her crew and a copy of state theft laws. Her hands shook. "This proves nothing. Your landscaper's logo says otherwise," I replied. She tried to bargain, but I laid out my terms, a public apology, removal of the tap, and an HOA agreement to leave my system alone. She glared, nodded, and slunk away. Her crew dug up the tap under my watch, avoiding my gaze. She sent a typed apology and a signed HOA pact, but I knew she wasn't done. Days later, my sensors pinged again. Karen was back, alone, dragging a hose and tools near my sheep pen. She pried at a rusted hatch, then wandered toward the sheep. Big mistake. A motion light snapped on, and Rosie, my lead ewe, charged. Karen screamed, dropped her tools, and fled as 4 sheep chased her off, losing a shoe and her visor. A neighbor's camera caught her hobbling home, posted with the caption, "Stealth level, 0." It went viral by breakfast. She didn't quit. She went door to door with a petition for an HOA-controlled well, offering landscaping discounts. It was a fantasy. Her land sat on clay, not water. Her emergency rainwater barrels, taped with a reserve sign, bred mosquitoes, earning a county citation. Neighbors laughed, and her power crumbled. At a town hall, she pitched taking my reservoir for community equity. I countered with my deed, county records, and her vandalism footage, then dropped a bombshell: I'd start invoicing water usage. The board rejected her plan, stripped her authority, and updated bylaws to protect my system. She left, defeated, her heels echoing in the silence. Weeks later, Karen faded. Her hedges grew wild, her garden gnomes vanished, and neighbors ignored her. I upgraded my pump and painted a mural on my barn, a stream with a sheep chasing a visor-wearing figure. At a neighborhood barbecue, the block laughed and ate, free of her shadow. Ellen thanked me for holding the line. I handed her lemonade, no words needed. Karen watched from her window, a ghost of her former self. I didn't wave. The reservoir shimmered, not a battlefield but a source of balance and a lesson. Control screams, but respect flows quietly, untouchable. My system hums on, serving the block, and Willow Creek thrives, liberated from Karen's reign.